colonel in the United States Special Forces found himself eyeball to eyeball on his personal property where his family lives in the middle of the night with a Chechen assassin. This Chechen assassin, which is what he was on this man's property because he had entered, the Chechen, Ramzan Duraev, had entered through the broken southwestern border. It is believed he is an illegal immigrant. It believed that he was not acting alone. In fact, Lieutenant Colonel, after Ramzan Duraev, the Lieutenant Colonel was armed. He proceeded to shoot in self-defense, he claims. Ramzan dead. And then there was another, Jennifer Griffin at Fox News reports that there was another Chechen who was in a car nearby, I believe probably acting as lookout as well as escape vehicle. And the Moore County Police Department, the Moore County Sheriff's Department rather, actually talked to this man and let him go on the basis that they did not have sufficient evidence. Moore County Sheriff's Department was called in. The way that they wrote the report makes it sound as though the colonel was at fault. And indeed, here we go again, the American left has come and they're writing to the defense of Ramzan Duraev. And they've started on change.org a petition to help fund his funeral. And the official story is that basically this colonel went nuts and just killed a swarthy-looking foreigner that happened to be on his property. And, of course, the argument from the left and the official story is Ramzan Duraev was only on the property because he was a subcontractor for a small, hitherto unknown utilities company based out of New Jersey called Utilities One. And apparently, supposedly, Ramzan was there to fix some kind of equipment issue that was going on. But when the colonel encountered this man, the Chechen, Ramzan, was very belligerent with him. He had no actual equipment on hand. He was acting suspiciously. And furthermore, according to reports, the only equipment that Ramzan had on him was a very powerful camera, and when the colonel came upon this man on his property, he knew and saw this man was taking pictures of the colonel's house with this high-powered camera. It was very obvious to anyone that this was not a case of a colonel snapping, some combat vet having a PTSD moment or being, too heteronormative or whatever it is the left wants to insinuate here. This is clearly an instance in which a man, Ramzan Duraev, was operating in an intelligence espionage type fashion. It has since been determined, because you see the change.org and these left wingers, they're very good about spinning. There's always spin whenever they want to get behind something that otherwise everyone knows is suspicious. The reports kept singling out the fact that, well, Ramzan Duraev is a Chicago native. No. He immigrated to Chicago. And more importantly, it has been confirmed that he did not come to Chicago from Chechnya through legal means. He came through the broken southwestern border with Mexico in the last few years. He was not a hardworking immigrant, but because most reports indicate that he was up to something very different from repairing downed equipment. And so here we have an example of Biden's broken border coming back to harm not just ordinary Americans, but the kinds of Americans who go out every day and protect us overseas. And we further know, we can extrapolate what this was about, because it's not just Biden's broken border that is the story here, okay? We now have these horrible storylines. They're all merging, okay? One of the other storylines here is that, contrary to what the mainstream media will tell you, U.S. forces have been covertly deployed as advisors and private military contractors into the killing fields in Ukraine, going back to the start of the war. Okay? We know that this lieutenant colonel was in charge of a group, a special forces group, that had previously deployed to Ukraine, where it is believed somehow this group interfaced or had an interaction with probably Russian forces that were probably a Chechen contingent. Chechnya, by the way, is a Russian province, but it is a very, very tough province. It was a quasi-breakaway province for many years. It is, there were two major wars fought there between the Russian government in the 90s and Islamist terrorists who were running the place. It remains Islamists, but it is now Islamist, Putin-approved Islamists running that part of the country. And the Chechen units that have been deployed to Ukraine are known for their brutality. And so they are considered elite troops within the diaspora of the Russian Federation forces that are fighting in Ukraine. And so who knows what Biden had this American Special Forces team doing over there. Supposedly it had something to do with psychological warfare. Who knows? But the point is that somehow the Russian intelligence services, who are extremely skilled, figured out what this Special Forces group, where they came from, and obviously deployed hitters, Chechen hitters, to break into our open borders and to basically hunt this colonel and his family down. Now, what we need to be looking at going forward is there will be more cases of this. In fact, I spoke with a member of the Special Forces community that I used to liaise with when I did consulting occasionally with the Joint Special Forces Operations Center. This individual indicated to me that the entire community is on edge now because obviously Russian SVR, their intelligence services, are obviously up to something. They're obviously targeting the families of American service members who were deployed to Ukraine. Okay, so this is clearly an escalation. It's clearly retaliation. Of course, none of this would be happening if we did not have an insane, dementia-addled man at the White House risking World War III. But that's another story, I suppose. The issue here, though, is the broken border has allowed for tens of thousands of people to enter here illegally who are foreign agents of influence. They are espionage artists. We've got 10,000 roughly Chinese illegals here, mostly males of military age. We don't know what they're up to, but you can guess. I spoke about 5 months ago with a former Customs and Border Patrol official, a fairly high up person who's retired now, but he indicated to me that the CPB believes there could be as many as 5,000 illegal Iranian agents operating here. There are endless amounts of probably other Islamists operating here illegally that entered through the broken border that we simply can't track. And then, of course, you have compounding all of this, the tacit approval of the Biden administration for this behavior. Our border has been left open for 4 years now. People don't realize this. The border was basically closed under Trump. By his final year in office, illegals were not coming to this country. Furthermore, Trump had a great relationship with AMLO, the president of Mexico, who's considered the Bernie Sanders of Mexico. AMLO hates Biden and loved Trump and worked with Trump on stopping the flow of illegals into the United States. And those two things really helped stop the illegal immigration crisis over the course of the Trump administration. Trump didn't get his wall built, but he did actually put a severe stop and dent in the numbers of illegals coming into the country. That is all gone. That is reversed, and it has been put into hyperdrive by Joe Biden, and we now see the results of that. American Special Forces operators know this better than I do. They are not safe here in their own land. That they are being targeted. I would anticipate more Chechens to be basically on the prowl. This is not a one-off. The company in question, this guy, Ramzan Durayev, claimed to be a subcontractor for, is called Utilities One. During the examination of this company, Utilities One, you find that the corporation was incorporated in the year 2016. The president of this company is a Russian immigrant. There are also a handful of other Eastern European immigrants who are part of the board of directors or the C-suite board. In fact, one in particular, I believe, is a Moldovan expatriate as well. So this is a strange company. It's relatively new. It is not a major utilities firm that people are very familiar with. It's sort of a contractor. And in fact, what many Twitter users, such as this one here, were concerned about, and I think they're right to be concerned about, is that this company apparently has contracts with multiple state and federal entities charged with managing our electrical infrastructure, energy grid. So who knows what this obvious or potential front company for Russian intelligence has been up to for the last several years, almost a decade now. But the point that I'm making is that this Utilities One company looks to me, and I'm just speculating, although Fox News' Jennifer Griffin did report a similar thing yesterday in her report, it looks to me, though, like this is a shell company. Anybody who's familiar with espionage operations understands what this is. This is a front company. It's a shell company that basically, in this case, the Russian government is using to give kind of a non-official cover for their agents operating here in the United States. So Ramzan claimed he was a subcontractor fixing the power lines. Of course, that's not the case. The Chinese do it with their firms. The Iranians do it. Even the North Koreans do it. We do it overseas. The Israelis do it. The Brits are the masters of it. So this is nothing new. Anybody who's ever seen that great show, The Americans, knows full well what this is. This was actually a subplot in that wonderful series. I don't want to spoil it for anybody. But in that series, the KGB is using front organizations operated by Russian emigres, or emigres in that case from the Soviet Union, who clearly are still working for Moscow. And those companies claim that they're employing these spies in America, giving them a cover for what they're really up to, which is espionage, assassinations, and things like that. And so, unfortunately, we are definitely, it's not just a Cold War. This is the beginnings of a world war. It's going to get very ugly, and unfortunately, I fear the war will not be relegated to Eurasia or the Middle East. We're going to feel it here, and that's entirely because Joe Biden broke our borders and won't fix it. If you like this content, please be sure to share it, retweet it, and follow at WeTheBrandon on Twitter, Getter, and Truth Social. Same handle. Also, be sure to buy my books. You can find them on Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, anywhere books are sold online. You can also find them in your local bookstore. And if you don't find them in your local bookstore, go to the teller and tell them you want Weichert's book, and they can get it for you right then and there. Thank you so much.